Welcome to episode 46, where we have the return of another previous guest from our first year. That's right, we're bringing back Greg Torwalt from Too Soon Monsoon.
Music, athletics, arts, and entertainment. The Desert Tiger Podcast with Colton Geschwader.
And that's right, you guys. We're back with another exciting installment of the DTP. You know it. My name is Colton G. How are you guys doing on this wonderful day? I mean, hopefully your day is wonderful. Of course, we are going to be continuing this month's trend of interviews that I got while I was at Breakout West earlier this month in beautiful Kelowna, British Columbia. And of course, like I said at the beginning of the show, we are going to be bringing back a past guest. If you have been with the podcast for a while, this is return of someone who is on episode 9 of the podcast. That is, of course, Mr. Greg Torwalt of Too Soon Monsoon from Saskatoon. Unfortunately, Nathan, the other member of Too Soon Monsoon, could not make the journey to Kelowna for Breakout West, but I still had the opportunity to sit down with Greg himself to discuss what the band has been getting up to in this past year since I last talked to them, which actually was in Kelowna. So it's kind of like another full circle type thing. It's another amazing interview as we catch up with Greg, where Too Soon Monsoon has been heading, his sort of awakening that he has been on in the past year since the last tour that Too Soon Monsoon had done to end 2017, and the music that they are in the middle of getting ready to release. They just released 2 brand new singles, and of course we are going to be playing both of them for you during this episode. Mountains of Blue we will be playing in the middle of the episode, because around there is when Greg and me start discussing the song. And we are going to be kicking things off with the first single off of Too Soon Monsoon's upcoming album that will be released next year, probably spring of 2019, so please keep your ears and eyes open for that one. This song is called Ocean.
I'd rather be
Tiger Podcast.
All right, we have the return of one of the members of Too Soon Monsoon, Mr. Greg Torwalt. How's it going, my man?
It's going well. Thanks for having me back.
I'm so excited to have you back. It was pretty much a year ago that we spoke, was it not?
Yeah, last October in Kelowna. We were rolling through here
In
for
Kelowna.
a show. Yeah.
We're back again, this time for something entirely different.
Yeah.
But alas, either way, glad that fate could bring this back together.
Brought us back.
Exactly. What could possibly go wrong? So you guys have been doing a lot of stuff since the last time we spoke. You've dropped a couple music videos.
Yeah.
You've done a few other things, and you guys have been cooking up a new album. I mean, we're gonna dive all up into that. So
Sweet.
First off, like, we last spoke in last November. So after that tour, where did that sort of take Too Soon Monsoon?
Yeah, so the tour was awesome. We got back on the road got back from the road, and we were just we were done touring, so we were kind of getting ready for some shows in the winter. I was kind of thinking about getting into a new album, but didn't really have much of a plan to really start doing too much writing. But I just moved back to Saskatoon.
Yeah.
So I work part-time in the city, but before that I was driving in every day and like crashing on couches and stuff. So didn't have a whole lot of time to really kind of write or think about things like that. So as soon as we got back from the tour, we were living in Saskatoon now, and working part-time, I found myself with a lot more time to just kind of be thinking and going out down by the river and reading and reflecting on a lot of things, and that kind of just inspired a lot of the songs on the new album.
Yeah. Awesome. So was there any like particular reason why you decided to take the time to reflect? Like, was there any like personal reason that you were trying to like achieve for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So, I guess like in the lead up to the last tour in September, we were getting ready to move to the city, so we were kind of packing up the house and stuff. And in the beginning of September, my uncle had passed away suddenly from a heart attack.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, it was horrible, and I found out like an hour before we were about to go on stage for a show. So just kind of like, it was like a lot of kind of just pushing things back to keep the momentum
to
of
try and roll through
and
get the show done.
And we were also like getting ready to release the EP at that time and rehearsing for the tour, and so there's just kind of a lot going on. So it was a really, really busy time, September, October. So I didn't really process a lot of what I was kind of going through.
Yeah.
So then coming back from that tour, when I found myself with like a lot of time with just myself. So I had more time to really start doing a lot more reading and reflecting, and spending time in nature and just really kind of thinking a little bit more about what are the important things in life.
Yeah. Okay. So what did you find that you feel are like the important things in life to you? Like, what did that journey and process bring you to? Yeah,
it's just like I started to do a lot of reading about kind of about spirituality and thinking about like kind of the purpose of life and afterlife, and the idea of interconnectedness and being able to see yourself in other people and in nature, and kind of getting reconnected with myself and with my friends and my family, and trying to make sure those relationships were staying strong. And it's tricky being in music too, because it's consuming. There's a lot going on, so it's hard to always find that balance, but it's something I'm trying to strive and maintain. So a lot of it was going down. We live like a block from the river in Saskatoon.
Oh, wow.
So I'd go down daily after work and just spend some time just like hanging out by the river, watching the river go by, going down to the art gallery a lot, and kind of just thinking about things, appreciating art, appreciating nature. And kind of the more I did that, the more I started to realize that those are things that made me feel good and allowed me to kind of feel a bit more balanced and calm about things. And I started to reflect more and more on like how even as we grow up, you kind of like we were starting to get lots of cool shows, and but I was always thinking of like what's next instead of kind of enjoying the journey, the moment. So we'd get things, and yeah, we'd be playing, or we'd be putting out a show, or we open for Wide Mouth Masons. Like, it's awesome, but I was always thinking, like, what's the next thing, instead of like enjoying that moment too. So so being able to slow down and enjoy those things. And I think even the idea of, like, there's a song on the new record called Growing Up, and just like that idea, we ask kids, and like we get asked it too when we were young, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that puts that idea in your mind that when you become that thing that you've been working for, you know, life's going to be awesome, right?
Yeah.
You know, and then when you hit that thing, or you've spent years studying or whatever, sacrificing things, then you realize, like, oh, like, I'm not happy.
This isn't as fulfilling as
Yeah.
I maybe thought it was when I was told to choose a career path when I was 7.
Totally. Yeah. And just like that idea of kind of disillusion. So to me, I feel like growing up, I'm starting to understand that it's more that we should always be constantly kind of growing and changing and learning and evolving and challenging ourselves to learn more, instead of just being comfortable. For so long, I kind of resisted change. I'd liked being comfortable. I still kind of, you know, I get nervous in situations where I don't know what to expect, but I'm learning more that, you know, I can't really control what life throws to me, but I can control, like, how I deal with it, or how I react to that situation.
Yeah, exactly. Taking care of the things that are within your realm of grasp, and not worrying about the things that you have absolutely no influence on.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, cool. So, how did this end up inspiring the songwriting and lyricism of the new album? Because like, I've seen you twice, and like, you told some of the stories at the shows. So like, let's delve into that. Like, what are some of the songs actually about, and how did you get to the process of creating them?
Yeah, the first song that we put out a few weeks ago, called Ocean, that one I wrote in September, before we were going out on the road, and just kind of, it's about that idea of, you know, going with the flow.
Yeah.
Kind of realizing that, it started just by like looking up at the sky. You know, it's something everybody does. You kind of look at the stars and you realize that everybody's has their own things going on, and maybe the problems or the issues you're dealing with, they're big, but they're also not. Everybody's kind of got their own things. So just realizing that we're all kind of like a wave in an ocean is the metaphor I was using. And when I got that metaphor in my head, I just kind of rolled with it and started thinking about, like, you know, waves move with the pull of the moon.
Yeah.
And so that kind of idea too. And so that song's just about, and that's the first song on the record. And I like how it starts off the record, just because it's an upbeat song. And it reminds me that, you know, just to go with the flow. And then the record kind of goes through like ups and downs of having those realizations, but also still like the challenge of, trying to stay calm in those types of situations, and trying to maintain that balance.
Trying to actually break down situations when you're in the middle of them, and how do you deal with them, especially if you're somebody who maybe has anxiety or something else.
Totally. I've listened to this podcast quite a bit this past year. It's called Secular Buddhism, and it's really interesting. There's one episode about minding the gap. Yeah. And the podcast, I can't remember his name. The guy, he's talked about in England on the subway, I think there's a sign that tells you to mind the gap between when you get off the subway or the train and step out. There's like a gap so you don't trip. So it says mind the gap. And he mentioned how that's like a really impactful phrase to him, or helps him just remember that gap between what's happening to you and then your reaction. You have that control of how we respond to it, instead of just instantly reacting or instantly getting upset or angry or stressed. Just think, I just try and think more like, why am I feeling this way, or what's causing me to feel stressed or happy or whatever, you know?
Try and actually break it down and understand, rather than just
react.
Accepting and reacting. No, that's pretty fantastic. So you just dropped a song called Mountains of Blue yesterday.
That's right, yeah.
Let's dive a little bit into that one.
Yeah, that song's one of my favorite songs on the record. That one, I kind of wrote in bits and pieces. The first part of the song was written. I went to the art gallery in Saskatoon as soon as we got back from the tour last fall. The gallery had just opened up, and I was really excited to check it out. So as soon as we got home, went down to the gallery, and in the first room, as soon as I walk in, there's this big blue painting in the corner. Lauren Harris painting. He's a Group 7 artist, really influential, lots of like landscape paintings. And it's these mountains. The painting's called Untitled Mountains near Jasper. It's these like white and blue mountains. It's huge painting, and it just drew me in. And I spent quite a bit of time with it, taking it in, and went back to the museum a couple days later. And I noticed like on the green hills in front, all these tiny individual trees, and like I completely missed them the first time. I didn't know how. I was like a foot away from the painting, and I just didn't see them, and even certain colors in the mountains. So that got me thinking more about like what else are you missing when you go through life really quick, or if you're distracted by like money problems or phones or social media or whatever, and it can hold you back from really connecting with art or with nature or with whatever. So after I had that kind of realization, and the gallery, the Reme, it's right on the river, so I'd always be walking back and forth along the river, so I'd be coming back from the gallery and reflecting on what I was thinking about, or stopping by the river. And so it was cool. So I wrote the first bit of the song kind of walking back from the gallery that second day, and then I was looking through, I keep like lots of my original lyrics, or sometimes I'll just write on like post-it notes and stuff, and I was just looking back through a book in my piano bench, and I found this post-it note where this second verse was written while I was waiting to get my winter tires put on, Mr. Lube. So I was like, this is a nice little post-it note, so I kept that one. But yeah, so that song I'm really, really excited about. And then I started to think more about, how like your brain kind of, instead of like, there's so much sensory overload, so our brain filters out what information we're actually observing or getting with our senses. So that kind of idea made me think more about like what are we missing, or what's our brain allowing us to really see. So the bridge of the song is kind of like that sensory overload feel where everything does kind of overwhelm you if you let it. That's a line in the song. Everything could overwhelm me if I let it. So our brain controls that so we don't get overwhelmed, but I think sometimes it's important to try and experience as much as you can if you're able to. Yeah. Oh, so and then even that the bridge too, I had the idea of Willy Wonka. That boat scene in the original Willy Wonka where it's like super terrifying, where he takes all the kids on the boat and it's just like super trippy and stuff. I remember watching that scene as a kid and just being like terrified kind of.
I agree.
So I had that in mind too for the bridge, kind of I don't know, the sound of it or the feel that we wanted to give during that kind of moment. And then it comes back down to like the nice calm opening verse again.
Awesome. So a little bit of behind the scenes look at things for you Desert Tiger listeners out there. Me and Greg had to do this interview in 2 parts because I kind of crashed around this part because of lack of sleep, lack of food, and lack of liquid, because conferences are fantastic, kids. Take care of yourselves, whether you're at a festival, a conference, or whatever it is you're doing. But don't worry, me and Greg met up the next day to talk so much more about Too Soon Monsoon, their upcoming album, some of their plans for the future, and of course the song I am going to be playing for you very shortly, entitled Mountains of Blue. So before we get there, first off, I want to just go ahead and acknowledge that the Desert Tiger podcast is 100% fan supported. So without you guys, we could not bring you this content every single week, talking to great athletes, artists, actors, all the very like, everything that you guys love. If it wasn't for you guys hitting that subscribe button, sharing these episodes, and to those of you who have gone ahead and picked yourself up a Desert Tiger t-shirt, that actually equals money that like goes into my gas tank so that I can go to things like Breakout West It's where I can just get a massive amount of interviews and meet so many amazing people. Like, the amount of amazing people I met at this conference that is probably going to end up leading to interviews here in the next couple months is mind-blowing. All of them are incredible. So everybody that bought a t-shirt, that's literally what your money went to, was so that I could go to Breakout West. So thank you guys so very much for everything you do for this podcast. It really, really does mean a lot from the bottom of my heart. So without further ado, we should probably get back to playing a little bit more Too Soon Monsoon and get back into this interview with Mr. Greg Torwalt. So without leaving you waiting any longer, this is the Mountains of Blue.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
So, part of the Mountains of Blue here is the fact that it was inspired by a painting.
Mm-hmm.
So, having just been through the Breakout West weekend, part of your set actually involved painting a picture during Mountains of Blue. What inspired this?
A few years ago, I went to a show at the Jazz Fest in Saskatoon. Janelle Monáe was playing.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it was she's amazing, and she puts on like a really theatrical performance. Like she's an actress and stuff.
I've never seen her, but I've always wanted to.
It was so cool. And during one of her songs, she had a canvas set up and then started like painting and singing during her performance. And I just thought that was so cool. And I was like, if there's ever a chance for me to be able to do that with the song, it's like I'm gonna jump on that. So it makes sense since Mountains of Blue is inspired by a painting. I thought it's kind of fun to try and recreate that Lauren Harris painting. So yeah, it's a 2-minute song, or a little over 2 minutes, so it's a pretty quick painting. But yeah, it's a lot of fun to try and.
So it's actually inspired by the Lauren Harris painting,
mm-hmm.
just like the song is.
Totally, yeah.
Oh wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So did you find that you had to practice the painting while singing? Because, like,
you handled the singing very well while doing the painting
Thanks.
part. So I can only imagine that may have taken a little bit of practice.
Yeah, like this past week when I was getting ready for Breakout West, I was thinking like, how can I kind of make the set a bit more cooler, do something a little unique to stand out. So yeah, just kind of practiced, bought a few extra canvases, and when I'd run through the set, I don't know, tried just doing the painting, seeing if it was possible to do it in a few minutes and if it could look half decent. And yeah, so I got like 3 or 4 of the same paintings just kind of sitting at home. And I don't know, I guess like I'm always kind of singing around the house, doing dishes, singing, walking around, whatever. Always kind of singing, so I find like, I don't know, it wasn't like super challenging to be singing and painting because I find like I'm always singing.
Always multitasking
Yeah.
while doing it?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then last night, it looks like somebody actually got their hands on that picture. What's going to happen with that?
Yeah, I was chatting with this guy after the set, and he goes, well, "What do you do with the painting after the set?" And I said, "Well, nothing really. Like I got a bunch at home, just kind of kicking around. Like I don't know, I just throw it in the vehicle."
The
and-
Mountains of Blues collection
Yeah.
by Greg Torwalt.
Yeah, it's like you can take it if you want. He's like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, go ahead." And then he's like, "Sweet, we're starting up a new community radio station in Penticton." He's like, "We'll throw it up on the wall in there." So I was like, "Oh, that's really cool. So hopefully someday I can go back and check it out."
Yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
you can stop in on your next time through BC
Totally,
and you
yeah.
can see it on the wall.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
Maybe sign it for them.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so we've covered 3 of the tracks on the album,
That's right.
but like we've discussed how this album has been a bit of a growth process for you and that like you were doing a lot of reading and other things. Like was there any specific books or literature that like really connected with you?
Yeah, a couple things specifically. I really got into Mary Oliver. She's a poet from the States, and like her poems are a lot about nature and like just like really zoning in on like ants or birds or whatever, and just yeah. So that's her poems I've really been reading, and they've been really inspiring a lot, especially this spring. Another book I read. It's a book that was like a massive bestseller in Korea. South Korea, and I think South Korea, and it's called "The Things You Can Only See When You Slow Down," and it's just it's a lot of like little quotes or paragraphs from some professor over there, and it's just it's really, really nice. So I always have it in my backpack and just like kind of go back and maybe read a few pages whenever I have some spare time. And another book I read by Aldous Huxley. He's a really cool author. He wrote like Brave New World's a really good book I read by him a few years ago. But this it's a nonfiction text. It's called The Perennial Philosophy, and it's a pretty dense book. It took me a really long time to get through, but it's basically he goes through all these like different religious texts and like really academic stuff and philosophical texts, and tries to find a really common theme between all of them. So like the perennial philosophy is the ability to see like the source or the creator or God in everything. So that one was really inspiring, especially like at the same time as reading those poems and just being more mindful and stuff. So the more I was digging into that book, the more I was able to see myself in everything, like in other people and in plants and in ants and in the river and stuff. And that just, I find being able to do that allowed me to be a lot easier on myself too, because I understand like we're all kind of the same thing, and we're all going through this journey and just trying our best to get through things, and yeah, so those texts have been really, really inspiring. And then that podcast I mentioned earlier, that secular Buddhism one, focuses a lot on being mindful, and that's one that I listen to like quite a bit. I like crushed like the 80 episodes in like a month or so. Just would have them on, and so yeah. So those are kind of the main things that really kind of I dug into the last year.
Awesome. Well, I definitely might have to check out the secular Buddhism then.
Yeah, it's really good.
Because I've got a couple like mindfulness and like meditation podcasts that I listen to, but that's one I have yet to discover. So I'll
it's great. Yeah,
I'll have to hit that up. Maybe
Totally.
possibly later today.
Do it.
Awesome. So with the new songs that you've been releasing, I've sort of noticed that you guys have been getting a little bit more experimental with the sound. Is that because you guys are becoming more comfortable as a duo? Is that because like you're becoming more of like getting more in your own groove as a songwriter? What's leading to that?
I think well, getting a new keyboard really helped. There's like the keyboard I have now, like the old one, I could only layer 2 sounds and had like no control of levels or anything. So it was like just basically writing on like a normal piano. Whereas this keyboard, it's got like a synth and an organ, and you can do like so many splits and stuff and octave changes. And so that's been really inspiring writing and just like experimenting with sounds a bit. And kind of as these songs were coming together, starting to see like a record being formed, I found a lot more freedom to experiment with sounds and with down tempo things, and really just trying to make a really varied kind of record with a lot of things. And I listen to a lot of different types of music, so I find it's cool to try and bring in all those different influences and styles into this record while still trying to keep it a cohesive sounding thing. And yeah, I feel like even just practicing so much in the last 2 years that like even my piano playing has gotten a lot stronger in the last few years. Like I got my grade 8 piano in high school and stuff, and I used to play like a lot of classical things, but kind of fell off that a bit, and would just kind of rely on like basic chords and stuff when writing. But now I'm challenging myself to write more melodic stuff and trying to start with piano or start with something cool or some riff or some jazzy kind of thing. So bringing in, I think just challenging myself to write more difficult songs is cool. Fiona Apple, she's a big influence of mine, and on her last record, which was like 7 years ago, she takes a while to put records out, but
it happens.
I mean, that's cool. She said, like, I don't know how people can, I remember I think it was her in some interview, like, you know, the reason why it takes so long to put a record out, and because you gotta live in between the records, so you have something to write about.
Experience.
You know? You gotta experience things. So she would say that, I think she said it was for the Idler Wheel one, that she wanted to challenge herself to write songs that are difficult to perform live. I was like, that's a really cool thing. So yeah, just challenging myself to write, I don't know, more difficult songs.
Okay. So has there been any specific, like besides Fiona Apple and whatnot, like has there been any other artists that have inspired this push into a little bit more of a progressive style?
I listened a lot to Emily Haynes' solo record she put out in the fall, Choir of the Mind, and that song's like really piano based and a lot of like vocal layers and stuff, and using the voice as an instrument. So that record too kind of got me to try writing more starting more with that piano and using the piano as a really strong basis of the song instead of just like bouncing around on chords.
Awesome. Fantastic. So have you, like, having that new keyboard and being able to like put more layers and everything, have you found that that's allowed you to free yourself more for like stage presence and movements and everything else?
Yeah, like there's one song, Strange Age, which like I hit a chord at the beginning and it kind of triggers this loop on the synth, and then I can get away from the keys and sing with that. So that's like the only song right now where normally I would leave the keys, but even progressing more to playing with tracks or just I want to learn I'm trying to learn the guitar a bit more, so maybe I can jump away from the keys and have a guitar for a song or two. I just want to be able to move around the stage as much as possible. I love moving around. I love performing. I saw Jack White in Saskatoon. When was that? 2007, and or it was the White Stripes, but like Jack was just flying around the stage. You know, he had all his instruments all over the place and like so far apart, and I really liked that, how it forced him to be moving around instead of just stuck behind the mic, stationary, and that's something I'm trying to pull into our performance too.
Definitely, because that's one thing that like I had found before is like you definitely had a powerful presence like behind the keys.
Thanks.
But like definitely this weekend I've noticed like a lot of people have been very impressed by the movements and everything that you've been performing. Because like I
really
was
cool.
talking with T-Rhyme last night over
yeah.
Instagram, and she
Yeah.
was just amazed by your performance.
Oh yeah, I know she had a killer set. She's so cool. It was really cool watching her perform. It's like she's from Saskatoon and yet to see her, so it was neat coming to Breakout West and being on the same bill with her, and yeah, it was really fun. Back to back Saskatoon artists last night. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how big the world can be, yet how small, where it's like an artist from the exact same place could, like, you guys can go years without, like, never even noticing each other, and then you just both end up in the same venue.
Yeah.
It's like, what? How did this happen?
Yeah, she was dope last night. Really inspiring.
No, I love her message of empowerment for
Yeah,
sure.
totally.
Yes. Okay, so here's a little bit of a different question off the path of the Too Soon Monsoon. So we are both very, I'd say, large fans of Miss Lauryn Hill.
Yes, yeah.
And we've also discussed Fiona Apple taking 7 years to release an album. It's been about 21 years
I know,
since the last
yeah.
time Lauryn Hill released an
So
album. Do you
crazy.
ever think another one will ever make its way out?
I don't know. I hope so. Like I'm always watching YouTube and watching like so many of her unreleased songs on YouTube. So I feel like I know so much of her other music. Like the Unplugged album was really good. I really enjoyed that one. So I listened to that one a lot too. I don't know. I hope she puts out another record. Like I'm sure she just has an insane catalog of music like at home that I'd love to hear more of. Yeah. So it's always a treat like going to her shows when she does perform a few of those unreleased songs, and I just love watching her performances. Her band is so tight, and like they've been together for like, I don't know, 10 years, a lot of them, so they can riff off on different songs, and she's always switching things up live and kind of like a conductor on stage. And so even just like watching her and listening to the way she changes up those songs, you can tell like, oh, like her record would be so good. So I don't know if it's just maybe she just has so many ideas and is always changing up the recordings, and maybe feels like gets bored with like maybe I have no idea, but I would love to obviously love to listen to another new Lauryn Hill record, but so I'll just patiently keep waiting, I guess.
Just keep hoping.
Yeah.
Keep hoping for sure. All right, so one of the panels that I know you hit up this weekend was breaking into Germany and the UK. Is that something that Too Soon Monsoon is hoping to do in the next year or two?
Yeah, totally. We'd love to get overseas. Germany would be great. That's like kind of back to the homeland. I got some German roots, so yeah, it'd be fun. It was a cool session. Learned a lot about the German market. So yeah, and you see a lot of Canadian artists, even Saskatchewan artists, going over to Germany and having a lot of success there. So yeah, definitely we want to get overseas. Totally.
Awesome. Is specifically Germany would be like
Germany
the
would be
main
I think
goal,
so. Yeah,
but of
UK
course
would be great
UK
too.
is
Yeah.
also-
Yeah. Really anywhere. I just want to keep performing. Yeah, get the music
Okay.
out there.
And for a back home type style, what are your goals for here in Canada and North America? Like, have you guys made it out east yet? Are you hoping to make it into the States soon?
Yeah, we haven't made it out east. That's a big goal, is to get out to Toronto. We want to get out there in the spring or in the fall. I don't know. So yeah, we're definitely planning to get out to that Toronto area, play some shows out there. Yeah, just keep expanding and growing the fan base. Of course, like getting down to the States would be great too. It's tricky to get down there.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult right now and expensive.
Yeah, so we'll see, but totally, yeah, we want to be expanding as far as we can.
Right. Awesome. So what do you hope that the future holds for Too Soon Monsoon? I know that you guys are hoping to release this album in the spring of next year. What would you actually like that to lead you to?
Just like, to be able to play music the rest of my life. Like I love writing music. I love performing. I love the energy on stage and the connection you can have with people. And so just to be successful, to do it as a living, and to to be able to continue doing it and enjoying it. That's the goal, I think, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Play the Super Bowl someday, you know.
Maybe.
Go high,
Who
yeah.
knows? Who
Yeah,
knows, right?
yeah.
Got to set the bar somewhere.
That's right.
Oh, that's deadly. So, besides literature, do you find yourself doing other spiritual ventures, such as maybe like meditation or other things to help you along that sort of path of self-discovery?
Yeah, totally. Just like trying to go inward a lot. Spending a lot of time down by the river in Saskatoon. You know, as a kid, like you can sit and look at the ants crawl by, or like look at a tree or a leaf for minutes, and it's like, why can't we do that as adults? You know,
Why can't you
frowned
stop?
upon? Why can't you stop and just slow down and watch the ant or the ladybug crawl around on the leaf? And you know, so that idea of seeing yourself in nature, it's like I'm a lot more respectful of nature than I used to be. And you know, I look back at like how I was as a teenager, you know, in university, and it's like, oh, why was I that way, or why was I doing those things? And it's like you can be hard on yourself in the past, but it's also like, you know, that's who I was at that time based on my upbringing, or based on the experiences or the people I was around. So it's like there's no reason to be like regretful or hard on your old self. It's just like those are lessons learned, and you continue growing and learning and trying your best.
That's exactly it. Is like when you look back on it, you almost have to look back on it as I had so much to learn still, and so much more of a person to become.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So, if you could go back and say something to that high school, college Greg, to maybe like alter that a little bit, maybe make him a little more perceptive, what would you say to him?
Yeah. I think to just not worry so much about what other people are thinking. That was a big thing, you know, like, like thinking about what do people think of me, or what are people thinking if I do this, or if I go talk to them, are they going to think I'm cool, or if I'm, you know, it's like those types of thoughts just like mess with you, and they stop you from actually being yourself or having like actual connections with people, because you're not being authentic. You're putting on like a mask of who you think that person wants you to be. And I find it's a lot easier to just now like realize, you know, I have zero control of what that person says or thinks, because it's a projection of their own experiences, you know. So why get mad if somebody says they don't like my voice, or they don't like the way I'm dressing, or the things I'm interested in? It's like I really don't care anymore. It's, you know, it's my life. I'll live it the way I want, and I'll be proud of who you are. And
it's beautiful to truly hit that point, right? Because it's amazing how uncomfortable you will make yourself for people that you will only meet once or twice.
It's sickening.
It actually kind of is, just to realize like how out of your way you will go to like make yourself little for someone who his opinion will never affect you ever again.
Yeah, it's so true. And you think and it's easy to like hold on to past like conflict with people, or, you know, it's like you can resent somebody for years and years over some comment that they said, and it's like they're probably not thinking about that comment, or, you know, they wouldn't be, or that thing, but it's like you can just hold on to it for like 20 years and be like, oh fuck, I hate that person, or, you know, I hate them for making me feel that way. And it's like, you know, it's you can forgive that person for maybe what they said, and because, you know, it's like you don't know what they were going through, or so it's just like being able to like that idea of seeing yourself in other people, being able to understand that everybody's going through their own shit, their own problems, their own stuff, and being easier on others allows me to be a lot easier on myself and easier on my past self. And
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like you've done a lot of growth in the last year since we've last spoken.
It's been a crazy year.
That's awesome to hear. I'm very glad to hear that, man.
Thanks. It's been good.
You seem a lot more calm and happier, which is
Thank you.
deadly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been a great chat.
I definitely agree. It's been a very insightful.
Cool.
Well, friends, once again, it is the end of the interview. So first off, I want to go ahead and give a giant thank you to Greg. I am so very thankful for him taking the time to once again catch up with me here on the Desert Tiger podcast, and for not only taking the time on one day, but 2 separate days to sit down with me and break down the story of the new album that's going to be coming out at the beginning of next year, and what the group has been up to over the past year. I hope you guys have enjoyed this interview, and I am very thankful for you, the listener of the Desert Tiger podcast, for once again every single thing it is that you do. If you are new to the podcast and this is your first time listening, maybe you want to go ahead and consider hitting that subscribe or follow button on whatever service you are listening on. Or if you already are a subscriber or a listener, or if you just enjoyed this episode that much, maybe you want to go ahead and share it on your social media or with some of your friends, because that would just help out the podcast that much more. If you guys are interested in getting your hands on a Desert Tiger t-shirt, you can get a hold of me either through our website or through any of our social media. Hit me up, let me know what your size is, and I will literally send this thing anywhere in the world. And like I said, all the money that comes back from this gets reinvested into Tiger, into traveling, into getting more interviews and just more amazing content that I can bring to you guys weekly. So thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart for listening to this episode and any other episode that you have tuned into. It really does mean a lot. Alright, you guys, I hope that you are having a fantastic week, and until next week, I bid you adieu. Peace soup.